So what I had argued was, let us see, if one, if okay, say let us say G0, G1, G2, let me not call this G1, G1 are homomorphisms between connected Lie groups okay. There is a homomorphism let us say G1, G2, the underlining denotes the Lie algebra okay, between their Lie algebras. Okay. Then the statement is the latter okay, if say Gi to say Gi plus 1 is an isomorphism, has a discrete kernel, then Gi plus 1 are isomorphic. Okay. If the existence of that homomorphism means there is a Lie algebra homomorphism, and in case two of them have the same dimension as Lie groups, as manifolds, the corresponding Lie algebras are actually isomorphic. Okay. The converse is not quite true. Okay. 2, if G1, G2 are isomorphic, okay, we can only say okay, we cannot conclude that the groups G1, G2 are isomorphic. This cannot be concluded. The conclusion is weaker, okay, but both Gi have the same universal simply connected, of course, Lie group, okay, call it G bar, with Lie algebra okay, of G1 or G1 okay, which is the same as G2. Okay. So what this means is this identifies the tangent spaces at the origin of G1 and G2 okay, they are the same, but when you go and blow it up there could be discrete there could be discrete problems okay, but there is a universal covering which is simply connected okay, and in the universal cover the universal cover has a, that one has this Lie algebra, okay, G1, G2, and there you can factor them by discrete groups and get either G1 or G2. So picture is G bar, okay, there is some kernel here going from G1. So here it is pi 1 of G1, G2, pi 2 of G2, right. The factoring by the fundamental group of G1 and G2. Then all these things have the same Lie algebra. There is the Lie algebra of this one, and this one. They are all the same. Let us say called G bar bar, which is G1 bar equal to G2. This is the situation. And I showed you a simple example with SU2 cross SU2. You remember that I looked at this SU2 cross SU2, okay, and this is a big center, okay, and then by if I quotient this by the center consisting of 1 1 and minus 1 1, okay, you get SO3 cross SU2. Then if I quotient it with what 1 1 minus 1 minus 1, you get SO4. Okay. But if I try quotienting this by this, okay, if I try to go, the only center that is remaining here, only thing which you can quotient which is an invariant subgroup is this one, right, 1 1 and 1 minus 1 is the only thing that remains here. But if you do that, what will happen is you will get SO3 cross SO3. Okay. You won't get this, you will get something else. Or if you look at this and this as a center, what is it? SO4. So what is the center of SO? This is a center consisting of, how do I write it? This is a 4 by 4 matrix, no? So this can be written as this is a 4 by 4 matrix, 1 4 cross 4 and minus 1 4 cross 4. Okay. The 4-dimensional real orthogonal matrix, the determinant is 1 here, so it is lying here and it is multiple of identity, so it is in the center, it is an invariant subgroup. So you can factor this. What you get again is this one. This is the only thing that is invariant here. So what you get is this, again this SO3 cross SO3. You don't get from here to here. In fact, you cannot. You can easily see because the 2 pi rotations are behaving in different ways here and there. Okay. So you cannot conclude. They have all the same Lie algebra. All these things have the same Lie algebra. So from that you cannot conclude that the Lie groups are isomorphic because of this problem with discrete elements. Okay, that is one point. So now let me indulge myself and show you how to construct the universal covering group. Okay, that is a very pleasant thing. Okay. G bar, okay. Okay. I am assuming G is connected. So what you do is the following. Consider paths in G from identity to a point G, okay, and so and identify, okay, so I consider a path from here in ending here. The path has an arrow, the path is oriented, okay. So if two paths, okay, say PG and P prime G end at G, okay. So I have, suppose this is, I call this PG, suppose I have another path P prime G, okay. I will identify them, okay, okay. If PG can be deformed smoothly to P prime G, keeping E and G fixed. Keep the two endpoints fixed, you try to push them, okay. Now, so this gives I mean after this, then this gives an equivalence class PG, okay. Any two members of this equivalence class, the same endpoint and the beginning point, within them they are homotopy. Now I will give you a rule, okay, the following, okay. Now we multiply, okay, given another equivalence class P prime P of G prime. So this is the path ending at G prime, starting at E. Define multiplication PG with P prime P of G prime as equal to is done by what they call concatenation. What do? You take PG, any member here, okay, PG is some member of this equivalence class, then union, take this PG prime and multiply by PG. This is concatenation. So what have I done? I have this is possible because it is a group. I got G here, E here, and the G, and I have some G prime. What have I done? I have taken this thing and multiply each of them by G. So the identity will go, so under G this point will go here, this point will go here, right? Then I will end up with a curve at G prime. By this is the definition, is by concatenation, by joining the two curves together. PG is a path ending here. Okay. This one PG prime is a path. Now I multiply each other by G and attach it at the end point of the first path. Now I have a new path from identity to G prime, G prime, and I consider the equivalence class of the new path. Okay, so I am attaching the original path, the second path to the first path. So I can take the second path, start and translate it by the group element to fit the end point of the first path and put, and I get a long path. Okay, that defines the equivalence class. So that is a multiplication. Okay, you can see that P of G inverse is the inverse of G, because P of G inverse will go there and come back, okay, in the reverse way. Okay, so if you take a path, P of G inverse, how will you go? What is the inverse of a path? Let me see. It will be a, but I have to, I know. You take this path and multiply by G inverse on this path, you get a new path from here to G inverse, okay, attach. So you will be going back and forth. So that is homotopic to nothing. So that is the inverse. Okay, identity is just a point. Okay, so this is a group. Okay, this group is a universal covering. This group. Okay, so the G bar is this group of equivalence classes. With this multiplication. So this is the universal covering group. Okay, it is not difficult to prove that this is simply connected. That is, if you take now a closed loop in this universal cover, you can always deform it to the identity. So a closed loop will be a loop in path space. Okay, I mean you will get a sequence of paths. Okay, starting at one point. Okay, and so it will be a sequence of paths. It will be a sequence of paths. So it will be a closed loop based on the identity path. So identity path is, I can take it to be a point. Okay, then the loop will be a sequence of paths. It will be one path like this, second will be a bit longer, then it will come back maybe in some other direction, maybe no, it may bend at the same time, no, and then eventually it will come back to the point. So it's a sequence of paths in the loop space. Now this can be deformed to nothing, because I just draw, I can slowly shorten the lengths of these paths, okay, and all the paths will shrink to a point. So you will find that this can be, the space of loops is trivial. So this space is simply connected. Okay, so this is actually, well, modulo some arguments about topology and junk. This is a proof actually. Okay, so and this space is the universal covering space. Okay, then you have to prove that in fact this gives what we expect from SU2. This is unique. All those things have to be proved, and you will find this proof in books like, I think Weil, if you know Hermann Weil's book on classical groups, it would, I know the good book. This book I told you, Berner. Representations of groups. Okay, this is a very good book actually, and Hermann Weyl. This is a classic, and it is not, although Weyl was a tremendous mathematician, book is in a very casual style. Okay. So you may want to look at that. Okay. Now, what we want to do now is to go into representation theory and then see examples. Okay. So, given a Lie algebra, L, okay, with elements L, we will see how to find representations gamma of this L. But I forgot to say, remark something else. If let us say GI are Lie algebras of groups of connected Lie groups, GI, okay, that of G1 cross etc. G1, say GK, direct product. The Lie algebra, what happens? Can you guess? If you think of them as matrix groups, you can see immediately what happens. If you take the direct product of Lie groups, what happens to the Lie algebra? Direct sum, right? The Lie algebra will be the direct sum. As Lie algebra, so direct sum GI. Okay, you can see quickly. Okay, imagine proof. Imagine these are matrix groups. This is the quickest way. Because in the matrix group case, you can one parameter subgroup will consist of some exponential here and identities here. Infinitesimally you will get one entry here and nothing. Here you will get 0 0 0. Okay. Plus the second one, plus the third one. You get, so you will get immediately the direct sum of this Lie algebras. Okay. So direct product of two manifolds. This is the same thing as taking two manifolds and their Cartesian product. The tangent space will be the direct sum of the tangent spaces. Okay. Again, intuitively it is extremely clear. Okay. So that also you should remember because it is some of common occurrence. So I go back here. I forgot to say this. Now I will tell you how to find representations. Okay. Now, so having gamma L So these are matrix representations. Okay. We can form a group. Okay. By just exponentiating it, okay. By taking all possible products Ti gamma Li. Okay, I just exponentiated the Ti are real, Ti are going over real numbers, and these are matrices. So in finite dimensions, okay, so these are finite dimensional matrices. This thing exponential T gamma always converges, the series, right. So if I write this as T to the n gamma L to the n over factorial n, okay, always converges, okay. This is the same thing as exponential Tx converges in the entire complex plane, is an entire function, okay. Here also the same thing, because you get finitely many entries here, okay. Infinite dimensions problem, okay. Then infinite dimensions, okay, in infinite dimensions okay, I should say requires more, may not. So if you do something in infinite dimensions and find some representation and ask is it a representation of the D group, you cannot say anything, okay. You have to study the problem, okay, and we are actually, I think you did something, your paper is related to this issue, no, the Lie algebra representation being exponentiated to a Lie group may not work. Physics normally requires Lie group, it is not the Lie algebra. Lie algebra is tiny thing, okay, does not really tell the full physics of the situation, okay. And if you cannot exponentiate it, then it is a problem of thinking of it as a transformation group, okay. And there is a huge amount of maths literature addressed to this issue in infinite dimensions. You get into very difficult, for me very difficult operator theory, okay. But we will not bother about it now. So I got a Lie group here, okay. Call this group let me call this group gamma, okay. This is the group which I get by exponentiating these matrices and taking all possible products, and this is because everything has an inverse, okay. So such things have inverses, clearly identity is there. So modulo issues of limit, if I mean modulo issues of completeness, I mean what happens if you never get back the same thing after a while, okay, which can be handled quite easily in the finite dimensional case, okay. You will get a Lie group gamma. Now this Lie group, it has Lie algebra which I started gamma L, I caught it from there, okay. So what it means is, so okay, gamma has this Lie algebra, okay. So every let's say every representation of gamma L is every representation of L. How did I start writing? Where did I start writing? Somewhere here. Okay. I started. So every representation of L, okay, is a representation, gives a representation of the universal cover gamma bar of gamma, right? I have a representation, I have Lie algebra, and I find this representation, find a group. Okay. For some other representation, I find some other group. Okay. What is the connection between them? They will all be representations of the universal cover because all of them have the same Lie algebra. Okay. So you may not get the same group, but you will certainly get this. They will all be representations of the universal cover. Okay. For example, okay, also, okay, we can find all representations of G this way. Okay. For every representation, okay, call it all representations gamma. Okay. For every G, every gamma has its Lie algebra, okay, which on exponentiation gives back a gamma. Okay. So if you just, I mean, among the class of representation, if you take a Lie group gamma and find its Lie algebra and then exponentiate it back, okay, Lie group gamma with a take a representation of a Lie group gamma. So these are matrices. Find its Lie algebra of matrices. Okay. Then exponentiate it back, you will surely get back the original Lie group. Okay. So the Lie algebra abstractly presented, if I find all its representations, among them this will occur at least once, right, by construction. So the method is exhaustive, but it overdoes it. It gives a lot of things you don't want, you may not want. Okay. You follow what I am saying? Huh?
What do you mean by things you don't want?
For example, you may want, example, take SO3 Lie algebra. Okay. The Lie algebra has basis Li, Lj is epsilon ijk lk. Okay. This in its origin, these are real antisymmetric matrices, but as a Lie algebra you don't care about real antisymmetry and so on. You are only interested in this capital Li, this relationship at the vector space spans. You find all its representations. Okay. So it has representations, has representation, okay, 1 Li jk is minus epsilon ijk, okay, giving the 3-dimensional SO3 representation with spin 1 real orthogonal matrices of real orthogonal matrices or 2. There is another representation Lijk which is minus I sigma I over 2, Li is minus sigma I 2. These are Pauli matrices which giving SU2, right. So, if you are only interested in SO3, this is not interesting, but Lie algebra won't as at that level won't separate them. Okay. You can find the irreducibles, you can check that this is irreducible, this is irreducible. There are other techniques for doing that, but globally you might, the representations you get may not be of the same Lie group. Point to notice is I derived this by using a matrix representation of SO3, but when I go into Lie algebra and write down the relation, the fact that it came from real orthogonal matrix is irrelevant. Only the Lie algebra structure is irrelevant when you start finding representations. Okay. If you put the more specific characteristics of where you got it from, you will get only that thing you started from, nothing else. Okay. All spin J representations you will get from here, okay, but not if you put in the fact that Li is antisymmetric and real. That you should not put in, that is not part of the definition of the Lie algebra. Okay. The Lie algebra is an abstract vector space with a bracket relation, but you can get at this structure by starting from any representation that you know, going into its infinitesimal form and working it out. Okay. But then you should forget that representation, you should just keep the Lie algebra. Okay. Then when you finish the job, you may get a lot of things, and it including representations of different groups differing by some discrete elements. Okay. So you have to choose which you want, that is the main thing. Okay. But the Lie algebra method is exhaustive, it is not that you are going to miss things. Okay.
So after I found all my representations, then I place conditions on what I am interested in.
Yes, you can do that. See, because in the Lie group case, let me say finite dimensional Lie group case, the things they differ are by central elements. See, in an irreducible representation, the is irreducible. This central element will always be discrete because of Schu's lemma. Okay, it will be because this the yeah, but so it is exponential of some element in the group. It comes, so you take some diagonal operator in that representation, and by for example here you know that one of the elements is sigma 3 over 2, right, which is 1/2 minus 1/2. So 2 pi rotation here is minus 1, right. Here if you diagonalize L3, this is not a diagonal basis for, but you can diagonalize L3 which is antisymmetric. Yeah. So I should say IL3, if you diagonalize it is 1 0 minus 1. Okay. This is a Hermitian thing I wrote. So if I write the 2 pi rotation, I 2 pi I L3, this is plus 1. Right. So you can see immediately that the two things are not the same, and this center here is non-trivial, whereas the 2 pi rotation here is different. So by such quick tricks you can tell in most cases what is the relevant thing you have to look. It's not difficult in the usual cases. Okay. So now, okay, I want to let's say I want to look at E algebras of SON. This is quite useful. It encompasses SO3, SO4 and so forth. Okay. Now for SO3, we saw that it is spanned by Li with Li Lj is epsilon ijk Lk. So now here L's are antisymmetric matrices. Now the 3 cross 3 representation, there is a slightly different way of writing it. Okay. So for example, here L1, let me write it down, is minus of 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 minus 1 0. Okay. L2 is minus of 0 0 minus 1 0 0 0 1 0 0. L3 is minus of 0 1 0 minus 1 0 0. So this is in 3 cross 3 representation. Okay. Now what I will do is the following. This is more convenient notation. Define M mu nu is also more canonical by M mu nu rho sigma is equal to delta mu rho delta nu sigma minus delta mu rho delta mu sigma delta nu rho. Okay. This is antisymmetric, and I should tell you what these are matrices for each mu and nu, and the connection is L1 is minus M23, L2 is minus M31, L3 is minus M12. Okay. This is a slightly better starting point. I will tell you why, because it generalizes. Okay. And this implies M mu nu then M lambda rho M rho sigma is equal to delta nu rho M mu sigma plus delta mu sigma M nu rho minus delta mu rho M nu sigma minus delta nu rho I made a mistake, delta delta mu rho delta n nu sigma minus delta nu sigma m mu rho. This is a similar way of simply rewriting this equation, original equation. Okay. Now this equation here has a property. Okay, this is another way. Okay, now consider any SON. Okay, then I have this collection of then. Okay, this Lie algebra is spanned by this mu nu where which is antisymmetric minus m nu mu and then mu nu go from 1 to n and mu is not equal to n. Well, mu is less than n. Mu is less than nu. Okay, and fulfilling 1. Okay, proof is for SON is trivial because again for SON also the Lie algebra is spanned by the real antisymmetric matrices. Okay, and the meaning of mu nu is that it creates rotations around the mu nu plane. Okay, that is mu nu rotates in the defining representation n cross n representation in the plane mu nu plane. You follow what I am saying? It just rotates in higher dimension. In 3 dimensions a plane has only one orthogonal vector, 1 2 has only 3, so you can talk about rotating around 3, which is L3, but in higher dimensions you can't do that. Okay, but you can talk about rotating in a plane. Okay, so it will rotate the 2 axes in the plane with cos theta psi theta 2 by 2 matrix and does nothing to anything else. Okay, and you can check the number of planes. The number of planes for SON is n into n minus 1 over 2. Okay, NC2. Okay, and those are these generators. So these are all the SON generators in all dimensions. Okay, and if you start doing SO31, all that happens is delta gets replaced by the metric. Okay, for say let's say SO PQ. Okay, algebra in that equation 1 replace for the in the Lie algebraic case replace this delta mu nu by the metric eta mu nu, where eta is 1 p cross p minus 1 q cross q. That's it. That's it. Okay, but the m's won't be, in this case m's won't be real. 1 is correct, but the reality property is not correct. Okay, because is m's you will find that the finite rotations are boosts, they are not rotations. So there are some of them are not, you are not always writing exponential I things here. Okay, So what will happen is this is correct and this equation is correct, but this is not correct. There are i's in front, okay? And they get cancelled by, you see, the rotations are written as exponential I times something. Boosts, velocity transformations have no I, so there will be an I floating here in the definition. That will change some signs here, and the eventual result is that the delta replaced by the is replaced by this metric. That's all, okay? With a certain number of plus signs and certain number of minus signs. Okay, so if you do this for Lorentz group, you will find the same equation, but delta will be replaced by eta, what they call eta. That is it. Okay. So that covers for us, okay, the case of the rotation group. I have not yet told you how to find representations. We will do that. But I want to look at SUN. Here, just to show you the trick, okay? So in the defining representation, I want to write the element of the group U, element G. I write this as exponential TU. Then I had G dagger G. So I am writing a one parameter subgroup. This is 1. So you see, in that case, remember G transpose G in these cases is not here M. It is not true that R transpose R is not 1. R transpose eta R is 1, right? So PQ. So this is what is causing this i's to float around. Okay, I am just warning you again. Okay? Eta is this metric. Is eta. Okay. SOPQ is defined that way. It leaves that quadratic form invariant. So here you have got this one. So examine the one parameter subgroup, that is sufficient. So this says U dagger U plus U equal to 1 is 0. Right? Infinitesimal is 1, so the T dependence should disappear. And we are in SUN. Okay. So it is determinant of G is equal to plus 1. Okay. What does it mean on U? Is traceless, right? Determinant, this means trace of U is 0. Why? Well, U is unitary, so you can diagonalize it. Then if you take the determinant, so U is unitary, so in the diagonal basis G will be of the form exponential T. U is unitary, G is unitary. Yes, let me just go. U is anti-Hermitian. It should be U is anti-Hermitian, right? Here, so I can diagonalize it. These eigenvalues are purely imaginary, so it is going to be of the form exponential I t lambda 1, exponential I t lambda n. I am taking the determinant of G. So determinant of G is exponential I t summation lambda I. So this is supposed to be 1. So summation of lambda I is 0. Okay. That means trace of U, some of the eigenvalues of U is 0, I times eigenvalue. So trace of U is 0. the determinantal condition translates into a trace condition. So what we have to do is, so find, rule is find a basis for traceless anti-Hermitian n cross n matrices and find their commutators. Okay. Commutators. That will define the Lie algebra. Yeah. Once I have found this, I can find the commutator. Then I got a commutator and I have got a basis. Forget about the fact that they are m by n matrices. You got the Lie algebra. That's it. You are done. The reason is that this is the Lie algebra of this SUN group in the defining representation. So it's the Lie algebra of the abstract SUN group. Okay. If this SUN group is the it is a Lie algebra of the abstract SUN group, okay. Because that can only differ by some universal cover, but that won't change the Lie algebra. Okay. So SUN has no is simply connected. We will see that. Okay. So what I have to do is to find this Lie algebra. Okay. Since the time is out, I will do it the week after next, okay, Monday. It is not Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. It is not difficult. Okay. Then we will see how to go ahead and find actual irreducible representations using this notion of Casimir operators and so forth. Okay. And the center of a Lie group, not the center of a Lie group, center of the Lie algebra in Casimir invariance, and how to find irreducibles using the tricks using Casimir invariance. Okay. So that I will do later.